global CEOs laying out their outlook for 2011 and stressing what they consider are challenges for the world, the globe. Well, what about India? There is a very large Indian delegation. I think it's a record number of Indian delegates at the annual meeting of the World Economic Forum this year at Davos. 120, if my memory serves me right. Let's go across to Srinivasan Jain, who's now joined by Anand Mahindra.
Thanks very much indeed, Manvi. That's right, Anand Mahindra is here in what is said to be the first of a series of Indian CEOs who started gathering at the Indian Adda, which is the latest piece of Davos that India has staked its claim to. India's presence here just seems to be getting bigger and bigger.
That probably mirrors them. So I'm delighted that the team that's put this together has done such a fine job.
Tell me, Anand, apart from all the, just the presence and the huge networking opportunities, in concrete terms, what does it mean for someone like you to come down here?
Let me be very honest. This is about business. There's a lot been written about how this is the party capital of the world and so on. It's too expensive to come and have a business. Gross negligence if you spend that kind of money. We have stepped up, as far as the Mahindra Group is concerned, our level of participation in Davos since last year, since the acquisition of Mahindra Satya. And so we are one of maybe, I think, 4 companies, Indian companies that are strategic partners, which of course means we pay a lot more than others. But we do because we see value.
You're paying almost up to a crore and a half, somewhere in that ballpark, right, to be a strategic partner?
It's a little more than that, in fact.
Okay.
But we share it with the group, so we get 5 delegates who come here. Right. Interestingly, they started a rule where a strat partner gets a 5th delegate, provided it's a woman, to create gender balance. So we have Anita Arjundas, who is the chief executive of Mahindra Lifespaces, who is joining us this year.
So then all of you come down here, when you say business, what we see are just like a whole bunch of sessions and people talking. But obviously there's a lot that happens behind the scenes which we don't know about.
And we learned that in what biology or physics, Brownian motion, isn't it? Where these things, random particles that seem to collide with each other. But they release energy, if I remember, at the end of it all. Right. That's probably the best analogy for Davos. Random particles eventually colliding, releasing energy. Think about it from Mahindra Satyam. Think of the number of Fortune 500 CEOs who are here.
Right.
Think of
all potential clients.
Think of what it would cost them to try and meet all of them across the 12 months of the year. First of all, presuming you could get in the door to meet them. It is uncommon value for service companies, and especially for infrastructure and other companies that are looking to forge partnerships. This is the place to be.
Is there one specific deal that happened here in Davos for you that you can tell us about?
Well, very happily. You know, and that was, funnily enough, not an international deal. That was an Indian deal. But it was when we were going to do the Mahindra World City in Jaipur, and I remember Mohandas Pai of Infosys was coming down the steps with the chief minister of a particular state, and he told her that, well, if you want me to come to that state, ask Anand and Mahindras to build a world city in Jaipur. Right. And that's what happened after that.
Right.
And we have our second 3,000-acre SEZ coming up there. So business happens. I gave you an example of domestic, let alone international. There have been many others where we made connections with people, with private equity, capital raisers who've invested in us as a result of meetings here.
Fantastic. And now tell me, about your new RISE campaign, which we were talking about earlier. I'd come down to that presentation. Mahindra as a global corporate now, it's a global entity. It no longer is just an Indian entity. So is that again something which is going to come up here in your discussions?
It's already been integrated into our collateral and into our cards and so on and so forth. So to that extent, yes. But no, we're not using this as a big bang platform. What we're going to be doing is having an India release in terms of media to follow up. But our real release of this is going to be through social media.
Okay.
Because that's where you get the real eyeballs and the numbers and the participation. So we have, I think, a very interesting campaign plan to try and disseminate the whole philosophy of RISE. So watch this space.
Tell me very quickly, this is This interview is happening on a day when you've finally seen the credit policy come out. Interest rates have gone up, perhaps not as much as some were expecting. Are you happy with that?
Very happy, because this is exactly what our chief economist predicted. She said it won't be more than 25 basis points, because she said the attack is on core inflation, not a knee-jerk reaction to onion prices. So I think they walked the balance appropriately.
Even though inflation will be going up, projections 7%.
It is the food inflation that is skewing these figures, and a knee-jerk reaction to certain supply-side anomalies which are transitory would be the wrong reaction, because it would stymie growth. So I think this is a signal to industry that we have to conquer core inflation, long-term inflation, but they are not going to react, as I said, reflexively and grow in growth. So a very good response. We think it's positive.
Last question, Anand. The entire question of black money is now center stage, with the finance minister saying they're going to take additional steps to bring back black money from wherever it's parked abroad. We're in Switzerland, which is seen as a big hub for black money. What's the stand of someone like yourself on these steps the government is trying to take?
You know, you as a stand, and what is verbalized to you is unimportant. The way is, how do we live our lives? How do we do our business? And I'm very proud to say I belong to a group which has had a history of not understanding what that phrase meant. And that, in fact, is becoming a unique positioning today, and is actually a business advantage. So we'll continue along that path, and I don't think we'll ever have to answer that question to you.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thanks very much indeed for joining us. You probably want to go off and have some chai and samosas. But thanks very much. Thank you.